creatures, spiderettes and arachnids. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today I'm going to show you how to knit this really easy garter stitch shawl that is done from the top down. And so it may seem a little weird, but we're going to actually start from this tip here, and we're going to actually go down and then up and then down and then up. And that's why it creates this really cool sort of V pattern here. And yes, I used Karen cakes once again. You know I love the yarn. I can't get enough, and no, I'm not sponsored, but I love using it. And this pattern especially, because it starts from the center top and it works its way down, the stripes get more and more narrow as you go down, and it's so easy. It's a 2-pattern repeat. You guys are going to love it. So I didn't even use an entire 2 skeins. This is how much I had left with the second skein. So about a skein and a half, roughly, I used for this. You could go bigger, smaller, totally up to you. And this colorway is, let me see here, berries and cream. I would say blueberries or blackberries because this is so luscious. And it's so easy, and the texture, it's nice and squishy. I used size 10 circular needles, about 36 inches in length. The longer, the better for this one, because since it is knitted from the top down, all of the stitches running along this side and then going all the way to the bottom tip of the shawl, and then all of these stitches, all of those stitches are on the needles. So I did manage with the 36-inch length, no problem. However, if you can find circulars that are even longer, more power to you, believe you me. So what you're going to need, obviously, some circular needles. I used size 10. However, you could use whatever size you want. I like 10 because it gives a really nice loose drape to the fabric. And you are also going to need, of course, some yarn. And very much so, you are going to need a stitch marker. Okay? And other than that, we're groovy. All right, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so for the sake of ease, I'm using 16-inch circulars because I'm only planning on doing a small swatch for you guys. And I'm using some of the yarn that I had left over. And the cast on is very, very, very simple. So we start with our slip knot, of course. And we only need to cast on 3 stitches to begin with. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3. Shaboom. All right. And making sure we have plenty of yarn. Yes, yes. All right. And then making sure that we are knitting not with our tail, but with our working yarn. Always a good thing, right? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit 1, then we're going to yarn over, then place our marker, knit 1, yarn over, and knit 1. Okay. Sounds easy enough, right? Don't worry, I'll walk you through it. All right, so we start by knitting 1. Okay, and then we yarn over. So go around the back. And so we're going to have an extra stitch here, right? And then after the yarn over, we place our marker, like so. And then we knit another one. Like so. and then we yarn over, and then we knit the last one. Okay. So we started off with 3 stitches, right? And now, with our yarn overs included, we have 5. Okay, now it may seem a little odd at first, but trust me, you will get used to this because that row is the proverbial tricky row. However, this next row, we just knit all of our stitches, so it makes it nice and easy. So what we do is we're just going to knit all of our stitches, including the yarn overs. See, you can always tell a yarn over by the fact that there's no little loopy thing on there, okay? And then we're just going to work our way across, and we're going to pass the marker from one needle to the next. And then we just knit our last 2. All right. So every other row, we just knit all of our stitches, which is great because it lends itself to a project where we can be, mindful and, think other thoughts while we are creating something beautiful. And I always love projects like that. All right, so then for row 3, we're going to, let me see here. We're going to start by knitting 1. We always knit the first one and we knit the last one. Always, always, always. So we start by knitting 1, and then we yarn over, right? And then we knit to the marker. In this case, we only have 1 stitch here. So we're going to knit to the marker, and then we yarn over, and we pass the marker, and then we knit the next stitch, then we yarn over, and then we knit until we reach the, yarning over, knit till we reach the last stitch, we yarn over, and we knit that last stitch. Now I know this may seem a little confusing, so I'm going to do a number of rows for you, okay? Not to worry. And then you will definitely get the hang of this. And also, this might seem a little weird. However, what we've knitted is actually going to be the top of our shawl. And these stitches that will be underneath here, so to speak, are going to be the sides, the bottom sides. I know it sounds a little weird, but trust me, okay? So we're going to knit a couple more rows according to the pattern. It's basically rows 2 and 3 repeat over and over and over. It's that simple. Trust me. Alrighty, so our last row that we did had our yarn overs, as you can see. So this row, it is quite simply just a knit row. Nice and easy. No surprises. Now also, I must say that whilst I was knitting my initial piece, I realized that I had a ton of stitches on my circular needles, and my stitches, they were all bunched together, and I couldn't quite discern as to how big my project actually was. So it came to me that if you use essentially a lifeline threaded through all of the stitches that were on the needle, that you could then determine how big the project was. And I did create a video on how to do that not that long ago. I'll put a link in the description box so that you can see exactly what I mean. And I found the technique very, very, very helpful. And I did it once for the video, and then I kept knitting, and then I did it again to make sure. Worked like a charm. All right, so now we have the row where we need our eyelets. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is we knit the first stitch. Always knit the first stitch. And then we yarn over. And then we're going to knit until we hit the marker. Like so. All right. Then when we hit the marker, we yarn over and we pass the marker from one to the next. We still have this yarn over here, right? So we're knitting the next stitch. And then we yarn over again. And we're knitting until we reach the last stitch. And then we yarn over again, and we knit the last stitch. There we are. So I'm going to do the next row, which is just a knit row. I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'm going to do another row with our increases. Now, on the increase rows, we're actually increasing a total of 4 times because we have our knit stitch, and then we have a yarn over, which is an increase on this side, and on this side we have a knit stitch and a yarn over. So that's 1 on each side, and then we've got 2 in the middle separated by a knit stitch. And that creates that really nice row of eyelets in the center. So I find that really neat. So you can see an eyelet here and an eyelet here, and then we have eyelets along the side. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so the last row that I did was the one where I'm just doing knit stitches, and now I'm going to do another of my increase rows. Okay, so again, we start off with a knit stitch. And then we yarn over, and then we're going to knit until we reach the marker. Now, of course, technically you could do this without a marker, although I wouldn't. I would use the marker. I found it very, very helpful because when you get lost in the zone and you're knitting away, it would be very easy to pass by the spot. So use a marker by all means. All right, so We're almost there. And then we yarn over, slip the marker, and then we're going to knit the next stitch. And then we yarn over again. And then we're going to continue by knitting to the last stitch. Okay, and then we yarn over again, and then we knit that last stitch. All right, so I'm going to do this once more. I'm going to knit one more regular row off camera, and then I'm going to knit one of these increase rows for you once more, because I really want to make sure that you get it. And all right, so I'll be back in a flash, my dears. Alrighty, so I just did a regular knit row, and we went from initially having only 3 cast-on stitches, and now I've got 17. So it does grow pretty quickly. Now, keep in mind that as easy as this project is, it is time-consuming because you're doing a lot of knit stitches, and this creates a really nice, warm, toasty shawl because it is, you know, it's predominantly a lot of garter stitch, so it is time-consuming. But the majority of it is so easy that, you know, there's the trade-off. Okay, so we're going to do one more of our increase rows. And so we knit the first stitch, as we always have, and then we yarn over, like so, and then we're just going to knit until we reach the marker. Now, there are other top-down shawls out there that start with a tab, as it's called, and I have not done one of those. I may in the future, because I'm always looking for new things to try out. But what I really liked about this is that there is no tab. It just goes right into the pattern, and you know I love simplicity if you've been watching any of my videos. All right, so we have reached the marker. So now we yarn over, and then we pass the marker over, and then we're going to finish off by doing a knit stitch to lock that into place. We yarn over again, and then we're going to knit our way across until we reach the last stitch. Just work our way across. Now, of course, you can start with straight needles, with a short length of circular needles to begin with, and actually I would recommend that only because if you have a really long cable with your circulars, it can be a bit daunting when you're just starting this project. So you may want to start off with straight needles or a small cable. A small cable of circulars just to get started, and then when you have a good piece going, then switch to the larger cable. That, food for thought. All right, so now we've reached the last stitch, and now we do the yarn over. See, I almost did it before and I caught myself, but that's okay. All right, so now to give you an idea as to what we've been doing is, okay, now typically you would think that where all of the stitches are would be the top of the shawl. Nope, actually it's like this. And to make it easier to understand, when it's on the cable like this, you can see it better. See, actually, this right down here, this, where the ring is, that is the bottom tip of the shawl. And where we have these eyelets at the top here, and over on here, this is the top edge of our shawl. And then where we had those two yarn overs in the center, this creates the eyelets running down the middle center of our shawl. So I really like the construction of this shawl very, very much. And of course, this yarn, the Caron Cakes, really does lend itself to this pattern. Of course, if you used a really nice, slow changing colorway, something that's self-striping, that would look awesome too. Lately, I've been really a big fan of yarns like that. If perhaps you had mandala or shawl in a ball, I'm sure it would look lovely, although I haven't used those yarns as of yet, so I can't vouch. But as you can see from my intro and from just before, this is a great yarn for this project. So anyway, listen, my dears, I really hope that you liked this tutorial and that you found that it was, easy enough. And yeah, so if you have any questions, comments, please, do so in the little comments section down below. And if you liked this, please do hit the like button. I do appreciate it. And if you would like to see more videos, please hit the subscribe button, because I try to post videos as often as I can amidst everything that's going on. And yeah, so stay tuned. Always more to come. So listen, until next time, my dears, stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. And one last thing, when you've reached the length that you want, just bind off and make it a relatively loose bind off, because you don't want this to pucker on the sides. Just a quick thought before I forget and before I sign off. So listen, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.